Hey YouTube. Um, Here it is. It's the episode 1, and this one's compression. I might have to do more because I don't want to skip too much through some of these videos that I'll be watching. But I also want to keep it relatively limited. I really want to get back to playing Tunic. But if I don't do this on an otherwise fine night like tonight, I'm worried I won't. So I'm doing it. In the comments, if you have any ways that anything you'd like to see kind of different from these types of videos, I am still actively developing and coming up with what I want them to look like. But this is the goal of this series is me giving myself a reason to just focus on something and also kind of create something at the same time. And then maybe there's other people who learn the way I do, who need a lot of very specific details to piece things together. But then once they do, it helps them a lot. I like to talk myself through stuff. Maybe that helps some people. I don't know. But if I'm gonna do it anyways, maybe I can help. And then obviously I'll very prominently feature the videos that I'm using in their channels. And I do ask that anyone goes and shows their support to those channels. So, without much further ado, episode 1 is compression. And just because of the nature of things, and when I was trying to describe this, oh my gosh, to friends, to new viewers, trying to describe what my plan was. There's a lot of, I always would run through these different categories here that I plan on doing as well, focusing on. But when I get here, like sidechaining, because you end up sidechaining compression or sidechaining delay or sidechaining reverb. And more than that, I'm sure, but those are kind of like the main ones. Sidechaining effects in general. And so there's going to be some crossover. There's going to be some of that, but that crossover will just be more practice for the thing, or it'll just reinforce the understanding of it. So these are the 4 videos I found. I've watched partway through and maybe even looked at some of them before I decided I wanted to do something like this. And I've got them up already. And let's get into it. So the first one, I don't know the best way to go about. I guess I've got the videos that it is written down, as you can see. This one I have not watched, but it's the basics, and it's with Ableton's live stock compressor. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And it looks like it's helped some people out. And it's also within, I use Windows Ableton Live 11, but I think a lot of the features are still going to be there, if not mostly there. So some of the videos in this series will be on FL Studio or Pro Tools or Cubase or any of the other DAWs. That ultimately doesn't matter, but I am specifically also trying to find Ableton ones since I don't plan on switching DAWs. So here we go.
What's up? It is Funnel here again. If you don't know me, I'm a Finnish guy. I mix and master music for my living. I handle hundreds of songs per year. I work with most styles.
Part of me wants to skip over this type of stuff for time reasons, but this is, we're using
will be below. I also
his channel.
Ableton Live and music production. I'm a Ableton certified trainer. And today I wanted to do a quick crash course on compression. This is not an extensive...
Okay, there's a good chance I'll be pausing a lot and talking about my goals, as well as you guys see those down? Okay, that must be on the video. I have kind of 2.5, 3 projects I've started, and I'm going to hopefully be applying some of these things that I learn to my own projects, or at least testing them out and experimenting with them. So
5-hour course, but more like a crash course covering compression basics. Because, well, why does compression come up all the time? We need it
so
pretty often.
in the live stream, I
And
will be just
there's also
posting those,
some
but in the video,
compression is a bit
down
of
in
a
the
gray
description.
area. And when I teach Ableton and music stuff to my
they'll be there
students,
too.
and when I allow them to ask me whatever, one of the most common questions I get is, what does a compressor do and how do you use it? So today I wanted to be...
Also, I just realized those dots are those are his little collections up here. I forget about using different ones. I just have like favorites or something like that. So I'm going to take that as a reminder to do some of my own organizing and stuff like that. I'll let him say it too, and he's going to explain it. But what I understand compression to be is it takes this wide dynamic range you can see up here, and it brings this volume down closer to the middle, well, and up towards the middle, and brings the quieter stuff out. So that instead of looking like that, it maybe looks more like that. But I believe that's what he's probably going to get to.
Because it's fairly easy to demonstrate this with the vocals. What is the typical problem with vocals? Well, it is fairly human that when you sing, your level will change. For example, here, if you take a look, we can actually see that there's a lot of level variation in this audio file. This is a vocal track that I was sent many years ago. Maybe necessarily not the best recording ever, but it will demonstrate our issue here.
Poor Emily, just catching strays.
Let's play this real quick, or this part.
I'm beat, I'm torn, shattered and tossed and worn, too shocking to see.
So what could be the problem here? Well, when you listen to it like this, it doesn't really pose any problems. But if you had this vocal track as it is on a busy song, it would be hard to mix it in so that it always sounds good in terms of its level. Because if you mix this part so that it displays at a decent, relevant level that is good, you wouldn't hear these parts very well. Like, these would probably drown.
So actually, on the one project I have with vocals, which, God, I hope I don't really feel like breaking that up, but I might have to for this. I did do what he's describing here. I went through and automated that. And actually, I should probably just pull it up I should just pull it up. It is what it is. It's the project, it's where it's at. I want to change it. I want to retrack things. But for these purposes, I suppose it makes sense. Just know wherever you might find my songs right now, January 9th, 2023 is not where they're going to stay. So I'm opening this project. So you'll notice throughout this, maybe, I do have a lot of plugins, a lot of different kinds. Pretty much if you get good enough, I know this is the fact, and I want to get good enough. You can do damn near anything with Ableton stock. You can do damn near anything with the other DAWs stock plugins for the most part. But if you watch out for a sale here and there, learn things like, I like a lot of Waves plugins, but don't ever pay full price. Wait till you get 2 or 3, or $29.99 is generally their price. Now, if you buy, they've got some packages, like, I can't remember, silver, stuff like that. Some packages that are worth looking into and spending it, but also keep an eye on their upgrade program and know that it's, I don't know, but they do have good plugins to use. Are they the best? I don't know. I guess the reason I pulled this up was to So things like this, I probably didn't need to spread vocals all the way out to the left and to the right and have one center. And I've got them a little bit split up with the track delay. But anyways, I did put some automation on these. So track volume, you can just little, is that it really? To be honest, I thought I did more, or maybe I did more, resampled it, and then I don't think I did that. But either way, just little things like went up, down. I honestly thought I did more, but compression would help with this stuff more, and then I would maybe have to consider changing the automation on those.
Under the music. But if you raise the level of these, or you raise the level of the track so that these could be heard nicely, then these parts would just...
And for a track like this, you'd have to go down,
this is where
back to normal, down, back to...
So let's load a compressor on the track. I will be using the stock compressor here. I will disable makeup gain for now. And let's focus...
I'll try and keep an eye on where I am, but...
Well, we can see stuff happen here. So first of all, here you see the track level. It's basically the same thing you could think what you have here. So the level rises up, and here you have what's in every compressor, a threshold. Well, you see that now the level that rises up is barely reaching the threshold, but let me pull the threshold down.
Man, I'm realizing while doing this that it would be so much easier, so much smarter if I had the time to edit these and do jump edits and stuff. I don't, and that's going to be
GR column here.
Gain reduction.
So what is happening? Well, now the level is exceeding the threshold, and when it does that, the compressor actually acts on the level. Basically, you could think of a compressor doing this. Technically, this is what it's doing. It's controlling the level. So when the level exceeds the threshold, the compressor will now push it down based on a few parameters here. You should hear that it's now less loud. So now we are evening out the dynamic variation in the signal.
There's less difference between the loudest and the quietest point.
This is this info on the bottom left corner. This is always useful.
Damn, I'm gonna be in the way.
Ratio is basically like intensity. That's the easiest way to explain it. For example, when it's 3:1, it means that for every 3 dB of level that exceeds the threshold, it'll actually result in 1 dB of level going above the threshold. Let's see what the info box says. It says exactly that. For every...
So a vocal compressor, which a lot of people have kind of built in to things. I believe I have one built into this mic actually. 7B compressor. Yeah. So when I get over this, that's when it reduces that gain right there. And 4:1 is what I have heard in so many videos, and from my friend who is an audio, like a professional audio engineer. He helped me set up this mixer and everything. Shout out to twitch.tv/justspike. He doesn't do that. As far as I know, he doesn't really do that music stuff on stream, at least yet. But anyways, go check him out. He's awesome. And he's super kind, awesome dude. And anyways, he's helped me set this up. And 4.0 is kind of the ratio for vocals. Now, for other stuff, we'll learn in this video and or other videos we've got. But
3 dB of input above the threshold level, the output level will only increase by 1 dB. So if you set it to 6, to 1, it would mean that the level has to exceed the threshold by 6 dB to result in 1 dB of gain actually going above the level. So it is even more intense. I do usually teach.
That's kind of a nice thing to see. I actually want to go back to just read that. Numbers here aren't necessarily super useful in real life scenarios. Best to understand ratios intensity. I know a lot of people will mix with their ears, but I've also seen videos of people mixing with their they'll mix with numbers. Like they'll do a challenge themselves to mix with numbers, because I think once you see certain types of tracks or certain like things that you're going for and you know that enough and you've mixed enough tracks, my guess is you probably could go by numbers. But you want it to sound good. So things like your headphones are going to matter. I've only got AT Audio-Technica M50X is the M50 series, whatever was available from a couple years ago. They're good for mixing. High end is apparently not the flattest curve, but
it is. Even
but what you're
more
listening
intense.
on is important.
I do
as well.
usually teach numerical values when it comes to operating with these things, because people cling to numbers and it's not always helpful. But what matters is that you understand the basics, like what it is, and it is intensity. So then you have attack. It means that how long it takes for the compressor to actually reach
The maximum compression after the signal has exceeded the threshold. So, yeah, I'm curious what he's going to say about this, because I know for different instruments and for whether side chaining versus just straight up compressing a track is going to be different.
maximum compression after the level has exceeded the threshold. So it's like if you had like a visual representation, and you can actually have it, let's see it later. It's like how fast the compressor will act. Like, will it be like slow, like, okay, let me act, or whoa, let me act real fast. So attack is just that. And release is when the level drops below the threshold, how quickly the compressor stops compressing. So it's like if you think of compressor actually doing this like level.
How far is it going back up?
Actually, before compressors were invented, I believe there was a studio guy in recording studios who did exactly this, and I do not envy the job of this.
So that is actually, I believe there is a Waves plugin for that called Vocal Writer. That's what it makes me think of, like, because they would say that you were writing the faders if you were doing that type of thing with it. Like if I had a track and I was getting louder and I was getting too loud and I had to go like this, and then I quiet, and then but just knowing the track well enough to do stuff like that. And so that is a compressor. That's what a compressor does. But I am curious if now I'm curious. .com, whatever. I just want it's Vocal Writer. So this says like $249. You'll never. I don't even know if you can. I don't know if you could buy that. And at least if you are gonna get waves and stuff, wait for sales like this. Like that is the price. If you're paying more than that, it's not worth it. Steady vocal and dialogue levels. So it does what a compressor does. Save time by automating the vocal writing part of the mixing process. Write the automatic writing to an automation track for fine tuning. Now that part's cool. Like it just writes it to an automation track. No latency, no pre-scan, dedicated vocal writer live component. Okay, so I guess I'm curious if it is a compressor. Like, just is it any more than a compressor? Side chaining, yeah, okay. Anyways.
This guy. So it means when the level falls below the threshold, how quickly the compressor returns to no compression state. No more talking. Let's just do this. It's often good to listen to the parts and just mess with things. And
so they are going to talk about makeup.
So I would like to even out the level variation of these parts, and I can actually show you in two ways that it will happen. Let's go to this icon. Let me do on and off. Okay, so now see the yellow line. You see
It's
that
going
when the
back to
loud
normal.
part comes in, it gets compressed. Like the yellow line is showing you the level dip or the compression. And the less loud parts, there's hardly anything happening. Let me freeze the track so we can see that things actually do happen. So I'll freeze, I'll create a new track and pull the track down here so you will see.
So this is actually something, I guess I didn't realize that's what freezing does. I think if I was trying to do this with knowing as little as I do about Ableton and why I'm doing this series, I think I would have just resampled it probably, but freezing it basically just renders it as it is. Okay.
I actually moved it a little, whoops. So you can see that level variation is not as big now. So here it was a little too loud, and now
if you want it to go that loud,
even. And one more
you
thing
need some makeup
about
gain.
Compressor here.
I'm sure he'll talk about
these things,
or someone will.
My compressor is set to peak mode and RMS in a notch.
Peak mode is more aggressive and quicker. RMS is slower, maybe more musical. For example, for drum compression, peak would be more suitable. That makes sense. And yeah, so there's a lot of different ways. There's LFOs and other stuff that I will also be talking about to get like a pulsy vibe to different instruments. Like every time your bass kicks, so that you're side chaining your bass to your kick to compress it. And you might want like that slower release, so you don't just have this. You might want to, you know, a whoop instead of whoop.
Peak is like it reacts more quickly, and RMS reacts a little slower. A good example here would be if you were squashing some really quick crackles and peaks. Let's say you have a vinyl recording and there's a huge and you want to compress it. Peak is for that. Like peak can be very fast. There you would just make attack really short and it will be really fast. Whereas RMS is slower. Like RMS would pretty much ignore the quick click. So when you have to do, or when you want to do something that is less fast, like a little more mellow, for example, RMS could pretty nicely work with vocal compression. Like sometimes compression can be too audible.
Yours will be the best judge on how well your compression values work. Also, make sure not to over-compress your signal. It's very easy to squeeze the life out of your music. Always off, on, and compare.
And it can sound too aggressive. Then maybe, I admit, I used a fairly short attack here. And you might want to go a little longer and just experiment with these depending on what you need to compress. I also want to do a drum compression video, and on drums I will definitely use peaks, and there I want to be talking a little more about these values. For example, I never go below 10 milliseconds on drums if I want to keep their punch. But like I said, this is a crash course. Let's talk about this more later. I hope this arouses your interest and understanding for compression. So, till the next time.
Awesome. So that is anew. I feel like I knew that stuff, but maybe part of it was from watching other stuff of his. So, I'll throw that in live chat as well, and I'll make sure that I associate his channel with it too. Livestock compressor. Okay. There, that's his channel. Cool. Okay. I'm going to be doing that. So this information will be available. I'm going to, just for ease of myself putting this stuff in the video, I'm going to do it in that order. Okay, so we have a more detailed one, how to use compression, detailed tutorial. Wait, what? Do I have extra? Oh, wait, do I have? I don't think I had this one. I saw a shorter video that she did. I don't think I have this one. We'll save that one. We'll see what we got for time. This video probably has a timestamp in it. Oopsies. Actually, I can just take it off the list. There. There's that and their channel in the mix. I feel like they've done a good job helping me with some other stuff and just quick little things that when I'm searching and I find. So, okay, I am subscribed. Good. So let me get this sorted and then I will. And we'll watch. And then for my future ones, I'll just get that. I'll have that stuff done beforehand.
And welcome back to another video. Or if you're new here, I'm Michael. Welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be learning all about compression. So I'm going to go over all the basics, attack, release, threshold, what all the dials do. But far more importantly, I'm going to be going beyond the theory and trying to show you how to hear compression. So I'm going to be going really into detail about how to hear compression so you actually know how to apply it in a mix. I think a lot of
it looks like he's got lots of good stuff
theory behind it, but actually getting it to
in
work
his
in a
actual
mix
description on
without
this
just
video.
turning dials randomly and hoping for the best. That's what I'm really going to try and help you with in this video, having some focus behind what you're doing with your compression.
Yeah, I do.
I've got plenty of compression, but a simple way that I think a lot of us know is that, with audio, you've got quiet parts and loud parts. The idea is that the compression compress punchy and smooth, and you can.
I'm hoping I can skip around without having to go back and forth too much, because there's going to be a lot of crossover and a lot of just basics.
Also use compression to adjust the sustain of a sound, which is very common in electric guitar where you want notes to just ring out for ages and ages. So let's just dive right in and we'll take a look at compression. I'm going to be demonstrating these compression techniques on a vocal from a song that I did with a friend called Calvin. All those details are in the description if you're interested. Because vocals seem to be really challenging to process, and it's what I'm asked about all the time. I'm using FL Studio 20, but
Just kidding.
You can use any DAW, and you can use any.
Why did this not? I don't know why I didn't recognize this as FL Studio.
Compressor. They all look a little bit different, but they all have the same basic functionality. The first core principle when compressing almost anything, and I really hate giving rules in audio because, there's no real rules, but just don't bother doing it in solo. It just doesn't help you. You can listen to the vocal in solo for the sake of it, but when you're adjusting the parameters, you really must listen to everything together.
I like that idea, and I probably would have done that. Well, maybe I'll try it both ways, just see what it's like. But there's so much, maybe my next focus should be the gain staging video, because, this stuff is all over the place, but I haven't added a lot of the stuff I should to it, so. This is the automation on this track. So, and I'm looking at this now, honestly, it probably doesn't need, well, I've got compression on it. And this mic itself, which is what I believe I recorded on, has the compressor built in. So maybe that's why it helps a little bit. Because it's a tiny one. So if anything, I would need to bump up some of these in the mix possibly. And that's maybe what I'll end up looking at. But they'll probably be further ado.
And I'll quickly justify why I say this. Unlike other effects like EQ or reverb, where sometimes it can actually help to solo and really hear something in detail, with compression it's all about dynamics, levels, and transients. And because of that, you need to hear it with reference to something else. You have to hear the whole rest of the band, the rest of the instrumental. Because otherwise you're just blindly setting a level in comparison to nothing, and you do not know whether it's going to sound good or not. I've wasted countless hours compressing stuff in solo till it sounded good. Then
I
it
might
didn't
name the
sound good
series
in the
with
track.
further
So
ado.
that's the first thing. We're going to listen to everything
There's no way
together.
I can keep quiet.
And just to make a point of this, I'm going to start by listening to this vocal in solo. This is with no compression, and there doesn't really appear to be anything wrong with it when I listen in solo. So I'm really listening to the starts of the words, how punchy are they? The ends of the words, can I hear the vibrato? Do I hear all the low-level information? And in solo, I absolutely do hear it. I'll turn the reverb off as well, so we're just hearing the vocal.
I've been drifting away with you tonight.
So I'll play a little bit more later, but I could hear all of that. I could hear all the little ends of the words, like tonight. I could hear this little T here. It was all clear. Why would I even want to compress it? However, if I play it in context of the whole track, you'll hear that a whole heap of issues spring up. In solo, this was a confident vocal performance, really well projected. I thought it sounded great. In the context of the track, all of a sudden you can't hear the ends of the words very well, especially on speakers. The vocal just drifts wildly up and down in volume, and it does not sound confident. It almost sounds anxious. So let's take a listen. There's these really aggressive guitars that sort of compete with the vocal a lot. So let's take a listen.
No compression. The vocal feels unstable.
I've been drifting away with you tonight. Oh, I just might pack my bags and leave.
So that
I'm gonna be honest. I think I can hear what he's talking about, but I'm usually like when I listen. This is what's I think gonna be tough for me, and why I need to like keep doing this and just keep practicing mixing is because I tend to focus what I don't know if I know how, even in songs that are professionally mixed and mastered. I don't know if I get to I don't know if I get to choose what I'm focusing on. You know, it might be sometimes I pick out like a certain little bass or a wobble or a vocal line or like the vocal melody or the lyrics themselves. And I don't always feel like I get to pick what I'm attending to. I'm sure that's partly the ADHD, but
was really confusing. A lot of the time,
because it sounded
just felt
fine to me
too
because I was
quiet, but
focusing
there was
on
also
it.
sections, like
I
on
could
the
hear
second
everything.
phrase, where it was just far too loud on certain words. The same with this final phrase. I'm just going to tune in on this one again. It was super loud, but also quiet at the end.
Drifting away.
Like drifting
Okay.
and away, just shoot out of the headphones, and then the rest of it tails away. And it doesn't sound good. So this is why you have to listen in context of the whole.
I'm excited to hear where this goes because now part of me also wants to like take a line like that drifting away and that kind of fading out of it almost feels like it matches what the words are saying. And I like when stuff does that, but
track.
maybe it'll
The
still do
second
that,
principle is
just
that it
with
really
more
helps
clarity.
to have an aim. At least 70% of the time when compressing, I'm
And
trying
it's just
to
that one
actually have a
specific
clear
lyric.
aim of what to do. The other 30% is just wild sound design and hoping for the best. Okay? But what I'm going to show you is the difference between the compressed and uncompressed audio. So I've already compressed this, and I'll show you the difference. So the top one here is the original signal, and the bottom is the compressed signal. And to an untrained eye, they don't actually look that different. But if we take a really close look,
I was gonna say you
what
can
you'll see
see
is that overall the compressed version just looks fatter. There's less difference between the peak and the rest of the sort of low-level information. If I take the compressed signal and just drag it on top of the original signal, you'll see that the peak values don't change that much, but overall the waveform just becomes a lot more thick and fat, especially in areas like this third phrase here, where the vocal starts to trail away in the middle and become really sort of weak and anxious. On the compressed version, it stays strong through that phrase. If I zoom right into the end phrase here, the uncompressed one.
Something I'll have to look up. Like there's stuff like this that I get stuck on too. And I wouldn't know how to ask this question. So if you know, comments are fine or whatever. But like, so why does Is this stereo? Is that why it does? Like, why is it different on the bottom and the top, I guess? Is that a polarity thing, which I don't know much about either?
Starts small, gets really, really large, and then it ends
focused on
really,
compression, though.
really tiny at the end here. And what you could hear was that that's okay in solo, but with the rest of the guitars, at this point we hear too much of it, and then the guitars just overlap.
Is he going to
There's this
sidechain it
frequency
to the
masking,
guitars,
and we
maybe?
can't hear what we want.
Because I did that with my
Whereas
guitars on the
compressed
other,
one
just
starts
testing
medium,
stuff.
ends up medium, gets slightly louder, and then it ends up with a nice thick, bold signal at the end. And even though we've altered the dynamics a lot, the start of each word still jumps out of the speakers. There's still a nice punch on it. Now,
So you still get that spike right there. So this one almost right here, does that look fatter or not? I don't. Like, obviously it looks fatter down here compared to there, here compared to there. Oh, yeah. It's just this part, this little chunk right here, throwing me off a
the
little
next
bit.
question is, if we're just changing the volume, why would we even use compression? Why wouldn't you just go in with an automation clip on a gain plugin or a fader and just adjust each little bit of every word up and down like crazy? The answer is you probably should do that as well.
Fuck
So
that.
that kind of gain
Just kidding.
automation is excellent, especially if you're being paid to do a mix for someone. Spend an hour or two doing it. It takes ages. It's a skill that takes a long time to develop. And for a 3-minute vocal, you could well spend 45 minutes or an hour just doing the gain automation to make sure that you're actually helping it and not harming it. It's not something that's simple to do. Whereas for most of us that aren't being paid a ton to do a commercial mix, and we just want our vocals to sound good quickly, often if you can set up a compressor or two in a couple of minutes to just make the vocal fit in the mix, that's all we're really looking for. We're not going for absolute perfection. We just want it to sound confident and not sound weak. And I mean absolutely no offense to Calvin for saying that. He's a fantastic singer. It's just the way it works with the microphone and the way the frequencies mask in the mix. It can take a confident vocal performance and just sort of turn it on its head. So now that I've shown you what the compression looks like, I'm going to let you hear it on 2 of the phrases here, and words just sound confident, vibrato, and all the wonderful detail in the vocal. So let's take a listen.
I've been drifting away. I've been drifting away.
That's just so much better.
That
Now we're
does
gonna
sound
listen to
better,
the
but I
second
do like
phrase,
it.
and what I want you
I
to
would probably go
really
in with
listen for
automation and
is
maybe
tonight,
fade it out
at the end,
drifting
this
away a
T
little
just
bit.
gets sort of buried under the mix, but with the compression, it's right forward and you can hear all the detail and emotion in the voice. And then at the end here, notice how leave, again, without the compression, just trails away, but with the compression, it's really confident, really in your face. So let's take a listen.
With you tonight. Oh, I just might pack my bags and leave. With you tonight. Oh, I just might pack my bags and leave.
I really, really hope you can
It
hear
really
the big
does.
difference between those 2 examples.
I actually,
Definitely go back and listen again if you're struggling to hear the differences. Try to listen on speakers as well, because you'll hear the sound sort of in 3D a little bit better. But the difference with the compression is just astonishing to how confident it makes his singing sound. It sounds so much more natural, even though technically there's quite a lot of compression there, which you'd think would be unnatural. So right, let's dive right in, and I'll go through all the settings. We'll talk about the attack, release, threshold ratio, you name it. Let's get right into it. The compressor that I'm choosing to use is the Ozone 9 Dynamics compressor, because I just think it's quite a visual way of representing the settings. However, just use any compressor. They're all going to have
this might be
their
cool
own
to see
quirks,
a
their own ups
more
and downs,
visual.
sound a little bit different.
Although we
I'm
did
gonna
kind of
add
see it
this after my EQ.
in the previous
it can
video.
be good to sort of cut away the low end, fix a few frequency problems first, and then feed that signal into the compressor. It just tends to work better, but don't be afraid of, doing EQ before and after. I often like to de-ess vocals before I put them into the compressor. But anyway, that's enough of that. Let's dive through all these settings. This plugin happens to
I
be
believe I have a
limiter and
de-esser active on
compressor
this
in
mic
one,
as
so
well.
very closely linked, but I'm not going to be using the limiting section at all. So I've got my threshold, ratio, attack, release. I've got my parallel processing, my makeup gain, you'll be able to find these settings in virtually any compressor you're using. The first thing to do, and I'll explain what all these settings do in more detail, set the ratio so that it's more than 1:1. Set it to something at least 2:1. This means that when we adjust other settings, there will be compression, and I'll explain why in a minute. The first thing I'm going to do, this is probably the only time that I'm going to set something by looking at the screen and the output. Every other dial I'm just going to set by listening to it. Okay? So I'm going to adjust the threshold until I can see that I'm getting some sort of compression. I'll also hear it. And what this will sound like is just a reduction in volume.
So they got the peak
Initially, it's not actually
envelope
going to
and
sound
RMS
any
there
better
too.
at all. It's just going to sound like my vocal is being randomly reduced in volume. So let's take a listen, and we'll lower this threshold until the signal is passing over the threshold. Now the threshold is in dB, so if my threshold is at -20, that means the signal needs to go over -20 before we get any processing. So let's play.
I've been drifting
So we're not getting any compression there, so I'll just lower it.
away
Okay, so it's a similar one, but it's a bit more.
Gain reduction.
tonight. Oh, I just
So right there, you can see on the screen here, there's some gain reduction. It says maybe -6, -7 dBs. And also down here, there was a little gain reduction readout. How this is shown in every compressor is a bit different, but for now, I'm just looking to get some compression just so I can get a flavor for it. Don't try to aim for any specific numbers. I know loads of people say 3 to 6 dB of compression, but to be honest, sometimes I need 15 dBs for it to sound good, and other times I don't need any compression at all. So you've just got to do what, and this means that whenever the signal passes over -25 dB, so is greater than that, the signal processing is going to be applied. However, I need to give it some makeup gain at the end, because right now my signal's being reduced on average by 4, 5, 6 dB, so I need to add at least a few dB of makeup gain at the end back so that we're back to the original volume we started at. So I'm just going to set this by bypassing the plugin and seeing if there's like a massive change in volume or anything like that. So let's just press play.
I've been drifting away with
So at around 3 dB, there wasn't a big difference when I turned the plugin on and off. Right now, the compression that's being applied is just random. It's just based on these settings which the compressor opened up with. So let's adjust all the important settings right now. The first one is the ratio. Now this confuses people like crazy, and I'm going to try and make this as simple as I can. So looking at the ratio, a ratio of 2:1 would be considered quite a gentle ratio. What the 2:1 means is that if you want to get 1 dB out of this compressor, you have to go 2 dB over the threshold. So if I push past the threshold by, say, 4 dB,
It would compress it
it's
twice.
actually going to be cut down by 2 decibels. So it's basically going to be cut in half after the threshold. So if I increase the ratio to 5:1, what that means is that if my signal goes over the threshold by 5 dB, it's going to be cut back down by 4 dB, and we're only going to be left with 1, which is a much more harsh form of compression. And if I keep pushing this, 10:1,
Holy
20:1, you have to go 20 dB past the threshold to get 1 dB out, which means you're practically limiting. So often a limiter is described as a compressor with an infinite ratio, because as soon as the signal touches the threshold, it's just kicked back down or...
That's maybe a good line to remember. Just no matter what, it can't go above this.
chopped off. So if we take our ratio back, what I'm going to be doing is
And there is
trying to
one.
get
It does.
quite a bit of gentle compression applied on almost every word. So I don't want the compression to just take down just only the top bits. I kind of want to have this gentle compression to smooth out the whole performance. If you have a vocal that's like very, very consistent, and then there's just one word that jumps up like crazy, then maybe you want to set quite a strong ratio to just really sort of peg down that one word. But in my case, it's kind of just all over the place. So I'm just going to set a gentle ratio, try to get some compression going the whole time. So naturally, a fast attack time of 0.
Man, I skipped ahead and I probably
the
shouldn't have.
gain away. The signal has passed the threshold, it's loud. How quickly do we want to take the gain away from it? So naturally, a fast attack time of 0 milliseconds or 1
Attacking the
millisecond,
gain.
that's going to remove the transient from the sound. So that sharp increase in volume, it's just going to smooth it out. And this makes vocals sound really, really heavy, almost muffled. Whereas if you have a really, really long attack time, all those transients are going to get through. They're not going to have any compression, and they're going to start sounding a little bit all over the place. So lots of people give you specific numbers to aim for, 5, 10, 15 milliseconds, whatever. I actually much prefer to just pretend this dial has no numbers on it at all and just set it until it sounds right. Typically, for me, that's a longer attack so that I retain a lot of punch and transient. One of the biggest mistakes I hear with beginners is a super fast attack time.
I'm curious what my
sounding like mush.
I am curious what my attack time is. I do have a compressor one on the mic itself, but I did just, and so what I was doing is and why, again, another reason I wanted to do this video is I was just throwing a compressor on there. Also, fun fact, so when I did this project, I didn't know a whole lot about grouping things or bussing different vocals. And so as you can see, I've got the vocal verse center, left, and right, which I'm going to be changing that. That's not what you want to do. I was just going for some stereo width. There are ways to do that. Not what's super important right now. Let me take a look. Also, maybe just throwing these up and not having 6 channels would be something I could do. Anyways, so if you have a compressor and you do want some stereo width, but so at one point I was like, I know I've got more stereo than this on it. Why is it in mono? Why is it? It wasn't just coming left to right. It was just center, I guess, and it was because I had my C4, which is a Waves plugin. I had it on, I had a mono, C4 mono. Go up here. That's what I had. And that is why. So whatever, if you have something bust or whatever you end up using, just make sure you've got what you want on there. I've got some better compressors now since I put this on even. My threshold's way down low. I'm curious why I did that. Maybe it just sounded better. I don't know. I just maybe wanted to hear a difference or something. Did I even do any I didn't even do any output gain. Yeah, okay. So we'll have some good practice once we've watched maybe a little bit more. Also maybe reverb after. But do I have... Oh yeah, and then I auto-tune because I freaking hate my voice. But that's not the point. Let's go.
I'm just going to loop this first phrase so that you can hear the attack on I've, that first word. If I make the attack really short, the word sort of just mushes away.
This might be a
really
cool
long, I get
demonstration
really punchy transient. So let's start in the middle and I'll adjust those now.
I've been drifting. I've been drifting.
It does take that away.
I've been drifting.
So I hope you could hear that when we had the really short attack time, the start of that word just turned to mush, basically. So I like having quite a generous attack time, maybe somewhere around 50 milliseconds, but please don't copy these settings. Just set it till it sounds right. So what I'm going to do is go over to this section now, just a different part of the vocal. I want to make sure that I can hear the transients on each of these words. If I can't, or I feel they're being mushed, I'm going to have to increase my attack time a little bit more.
Oh, I just might pack my bags and leave.
So that sounds really good, especially on words like bags. That just jumped through at the start, sounded really punchy. Something that you might have seen me do there, that I do all the time, but not in tutorials, is close my eyes. So if I'm listening to something, close the eyes, all of a sudden your brain has no inputs, really, besides, you know, what you can feel and what you can hear. So your brain becomes a lot more sensitive to sound when you close your eyes. It's why at night, like, everything just sounds so loud. I don't know if you've ever woken up at night, every little creak and click and everything just sounds super loud. So close your eyes, let your brain really focus on the audio, ignore what the...
Also, again, these are the Audio-Technica M50X is good, I would say. I think most people would probably agree, good starter headphones, but I have been looking at, I believe these are biodynamic? Wait, shit, I don't know.
Processor's doing in front of you. If you can or you can't hear the
DT.
transients, that's what you're really listening for. You're listening
should
for
know what that
punch
is.
at the start of each word. Okay, I'm aware that I'm going on a bit.
Oh, I clicked, oh, lordy. Lord help. Okay.
So the release time, this is the opposite of the attack. This is, okay, so once the signal has fallen below the threshold, how quickly does the compressor recover? So if the compressor recovers immediately, what happens is the vocal just chops up and down in
brain
volume
farting.
really suddenly. Sounds really weird. But if it's too slow, the
Oh, they
vocal
are
just sounds
biodynamic.
like it's bogged
Oh,
down
the
because the compression is
DT770
just always
or
being applied,
660.
which means we're basically just turning our vocal down. So I'll show you both. Let's start with a really fast attack time. Initially, you'll hear the vocal jump up and down a bit. As I push the attack time much longer, you'll hear that the vocal just sounds like I'm just turning it down, basically.
I've been drifting away.
Oh, Sennheiser is another popular one, but
Tonight.
So what I like doing is setting the release musically. And this can be a bit easier to do on drums, but we want to hear the compressor open back up, add the gain to the ends of those phrases, and just recover in between words. So you can see this visibly on the trace here, but use your ears as well.
I've been drifting
You see how it completely recovers between words?
with you tonight.
So the idea
because it's releasing that attack on the gain.
behind this is that when the vocal's loud, the compression's active, and then the compressor releases, and then everything else that isn't being compressed has this makeup gain applied to it. So basically everything gets a boost of 3 dBs besides those loudest parts, and that's why all that low-level detail is pulled up by 3 dB. It's as though we've pushed the fader up by 3 dB, but also turned the loud bits down. This knee control is not on all compressors. It's on a lot of digital ones, but
I have Ozone 10, but
this
I've
kind of
never used it because
makes that
I've always assumed it was more for mastering, and I will be doing more on that as well. But it looks like it can be used for mixing quite a bit too.
threshold softer, so instead of just applying yes or no, it's sort of got this maybe zone where it starts applying compression. It can make it sound really, really soft. As you develop your ears for this, you'll be able to hear a bigger difference. I'm just going to keep this in the middle for now. I don't think many people will hear it right away. And the next thing I'm going to do is this parallel
Do it for the
processing
class.
here. So on most compressors, there's a dry-wet knob or a slider in this case. Wet means the completely processed signal. Dry means original signal. You probably already knew that, sorry. But what I like to do is I like to back off the compressed signal just a little bit. Maybe to
69.
70 or 80. And this just lets a little bit more of the natural sound come through. You might feel it more than you hear it. I don't know, it's kind of weird to describe. So let's do another before and after. I'm going to focus on the second half of the phrase because I know we've listened to that first half a lot. This middle bit here on the first phrase, this kind of dips down, is really quiet, and then the end gets quiet again. So let's take a listen before and after.
With you tonight. Oh, I just might pack my bags and leave with you tonight.
So yeah.
Oh, I
Oh,
just might pack my bags and leave.
So overall, that's just done a fantastic job of controlling the vocal volume, even on quite a challenging vocal here. So I'm just about to go over and show you some guitar processing, but I hope that helps sort of explain what those settings do and really helps you hear the compression. And I really
Wait, what do you
would
say he's gonna do?
stress this point one more
I'll
time.
wait.
is
I'll
that
wait till he's
even though
shows.
listening with everything together makes it, you'd think it would make it harder to hear the differences. You hear the differences in compression so much more when you listen to everything together. I cannot stress it enough how many hours I've wasted by compressing stuff in solo.
That makes
For sound
that makes
design, it
sense.
can work, but for like vocals and guitars, compressing it in solo, you're pretty much on your own. You've got no reference. So definitely listen to everything together. Don't be afraid to adjust the parameters and really listen out for what they're doing. The next thing I want to show you is this really cool little melody Calvin played on guitar, how we fit it into the mix, how we use compression to increase the sustain of the guitar, because it was an acoustic guitar, which doesn't typically have a whole lot of sustain compared to an electric guitar. Let's take a listen.
Oh shit. Okay, I didn't even thought about putting it on my acoustic guitar on the song that I have.
So those
But I also
notes
kind of
just
wanted
last
to re-record
forever.
it. So
Okay, but what we did is we had some EQ and a reverb, but we noticed that it just didn't, the reverb just didn't seem to last a long.
So something I am always curious about, because I see this in a lot of other people's, like this is obviously automation. You can kind of see it with that right there, that symbol. Can I just zoom in on this? I'm curious if I go out of full screen, if I can zoom in. No, it stays the same, which makes sense. And I don't have a good way to zoom in on stream that I'm aware of without just... I could do it to the center of the screen, I guess, but... And then have a button that returns it back. Anyways, that might be maybe something I'll look into. And that if it's something that looks like this because it's FL Studio, or since automation looks like this, like over the track itself, in Ableton. But maybe that doesn't matter.
Long time, there wasn't much sustain on the guitar, and when we increased the reverb size, it just became like a really massive reverb, but it didn't sustain the way we wanted to. So what we instead decided to do was use compression to lower the volume of the start of each guitar pluck and just allow a whole load of makeup gain to be applied to the tail. So what we're listening for here is that the sustain and reverb just becomes so much bigger when I turn the compressor on. So I'll start with it turned off and then I'll turn it on.
So I don't know exactly what's happening. I'm trying to see. I've seen these strip plugins. I think I even might have one or two of them. But so a lot of what I'm doing right now, what I'm doing is I'm trying to figure out like what is what. Maybe he'll explain that. Like, I don't know if this is the compressor acting or if this is just the input itself.
I'll try to keep this one really brief, but this time you don't change the threshold. The threshold is just set.
Oh, this
You
is the
add
compressor. That must be the
more,
original signal.
compression by just increasing the input gain and then adjusting the output gain so that it's the same sort of volume. The attack and release are in the middle here, and you see that I have sort of like a medium fast release.
Oh.
So once the sound is pegged down a bit, turned down, it very quickly recovers and there's a lot of makeup gain applied. And what this does is it means the guitar can be increased in volume a lot without the transients being really, really pokey in the mix. I still want the transients to sit back a little bit. And if you see the gain reduction meter, as soon as the gain reduction starts recovering back to nothing, you just hear the reverb swell back up.
Oh my gosh. I just had a bit of an epiphany, and it's something I'm going to experiment on as well. In my guitars that I have, like, and again, a lot of these projects started off as just like, hey, what can I do in Ableton, and testing stuff. For one, I'm seeing that this could very easily be compressed. I do have some automation on it, and I had just copied these, I believe, not the panning. I don't think. Maybe it was. I do have a what? What am I? What was it? Oh, I sidechain. Okay, that was a sidechain compressor with the for the vocals, the Vox group. Okay, that's why I did that. But I haven't. I'm not actually compressing the signal itself. So yeah, sidechaining will be like a focus of something else. But compressing seems extremely important anyway. So. Wait, honestly, I swear I did more of this. There were little bits, like I did little dips so that it was, and that was instead of I could have just probably done a fader there as well on the track. Did I do it for this, maybe? Got that compressor. Oh, okay, this is what it was. So there was... So that, there was some very, and I'll probably still need to have done that, but there was a very loud, like just finger noises from guitar. This isn't going to be the best way to show this, but like if I turned automation off, which I don't know if it'll. I think it's still on. Okay, what is this doing? Automation arm. Oh, okay. So if I were to cancel this automation, as you see, it's very loud. Beep. But if I definitely quieter, but a compressor might help even more with that, and also just re-recording. But
which is exactly
I'll be throwing
what
a
we
compressor
wanted.
on there. That's not
We
just a
didn't want to
sidechain
add
compressor.
more length of reverb. We just wanted more volume of the reverb to swell back up. And this is like a very common technique that's used in electric guitar processing, where you want a lot of sustain. It's why guitarists love, absolutely adore compression pedals. For electric guitar, it just adds so much more sustain to the sound, smooth everything out. So to prevent this video getting super
Duly
long,
noted.
I'm going to call it a day there, but I'm going to come back and
My
do
video's
another
already an
video
hour.
on drum processing, because that takes a lot of the rules of compression and just turns them on their head again. It's really fun. But I hope this has helped.
Okay, drum compressing. Let me see. This might be something to come back to a bit later. Again, these will be in the description on the YouTube video, and I did post them in the live chat, but oh boy. Let me just search. It's gonna make me hit enter. Parallel processing. Wait, does he say? What if he says it in the video? That would be fantastic if I just skipped it.
Hello and welcome back. So to prevent this video getting super long, I'm going to call it a day there, but I'm going to come back and do another video on drum processing, because that
Drum processing. Yo, what's up, Dal? Howdy, howdy.
takes a lot of the rules of compression and just turns them on their head again. It's really fun. But I hope
That would be something to learn as well. Oh, actually, gosh, that would make... Man, okay, I can see compression facing a lot of the things that I'm like afraid of tackling in some of my songs. Does he have the drum compression link here? Mixing and mastering in the mix. Multi-band compression. Yeah, that's a little bit more. Right now, I'm just trying to like get the basics down. Transient processing. I wonder if it's... Oh gosh, and then stuff like this. Man, stuff like this too. Like EQ or compression first. That's stuff I want to know about. Because I know those signals can affect each other. But I wanted to see if they had the... Okay, so if this video is 3 years ago, it would have to be newer than 3 years. Maybe it's about multiband compression.
hello and
I'm just checking really quick. Cellos. Okay, well, I don't know where the drum compression is. So I won't worry about that right now. I'll just continue on to the few videos and then see how much I can apply to my song in the next hour or so. This guy, so a lot of the music I make in the future and currently probably won't be EDM, but I also want to do that. And he's got some great tips for that. So some of these might not apply to stuff that I or you are trying to do, but I like this guy's videos from other ones I've seen. Is Ableton the first DAW you've used, or you jumping from something like Fruity Loops? So I used ages and ages ago, I used a pirated version of, or nope, it's too late. It's already said it. It's already recorded. I used a pirated version of Fruity Loops. It was like a very early version. And I used that, and I just made a really quick beat. Had no idea any of this, but I was just using their sampler, like their 4-step, like 16 bar thing, basically. And I made a quick little song off of that. I actually still have it, believe it or not. And then Ableton Lite came with my MIDI keyboard. And I had a roommate and a buddy do a lot of stuff on Ableton. And he would try and show me stuff, and he'd even try and explain some of this stuff. And I just had no idea that sound was like that. So it didn't stick, and I didn't really know. I didn't know the best ways I learned back then. But I would hear them talking about stuff and about compression and about like we'd be, using substances, maybe not. Someone who isn't me, whatever the people say. And I just listen to them and watch them and hear like their changes and stuff. And I loved that, but I had no idea what the hell was going on. But a lot of, and I did kind of look around at like some of the best ones. And I don't think you can really go wrong with like some of the main DAWs, whether it's FL Studio, Ableton, Pro Tools, Reaper, even Cubase. I don't know much about them, but I know there's a lot of people who will even like borrow plugins from like stock plugins from those DAWs to use them in their current DAW. Audition. I know Audition technically is a DAW. I guess I just always assumed that was more for vocals, but I guess I could see that is not, because it accepts VSTs and stuff too, I think. Although I don't know, can you use Waves VSTs? I used to use it pirated back in the day. I now own it, and a couple nice plugins like Ample Sounds, like Metal Guitar and Bass. Gotcha. It's a full DAW now. I have access to that, but I haven't done much video editing. I probably should edit videos like this, so I could maybe kind of even skip through conversations like this or some. Not that it's important, but just so I'm not taking up a huge time, because I want this dialogue, and I am streaming, so but I just don't have the time to, or I would do it, and I'd want to do it, but I'd be like, oh shit, I want to play Tunic, I want to play all these games I want to play, I want to record some music, I want to try some things out on Ableton, and then I have no time. I feel like there's already not enough time to do all of my hobbies and stuff I want to do, so I'm gonna just have to take a peek in I am curious, because I know at one point you couldn't. Can you use Waves plugins in Adobe Audition? Okay, it is working for people. Uninstalled Audition versions, rebooted computer, reinstalled the latest edition. It checked and it worked fine. Okay, so I guess for some reason I thought because of the Waves shell, it did or didn't. The way the Waves works, and maybe that just means I can't use it on OBS for those. I'm curious. Looking forward to see where you take the music stuffs. I'm really excited too. I've got lots of ideas for a variety of different stuff, and I just have had so much fun going in, trying stuff out, and now I think I can even make those things better. And I like, even in the next hour here, hopefully, I'm planning on taking a couple of these things and applying it to my project here, just to see what can be done. And what the changes sound like, and why not? You know, so
Hey guys, it's Will from EDM Tips. Today I'm going to share with you everything
Audition supported as a spoken word editor, but it's now more. I know they have some AI stuff processing, or is that online? They have some AI processing that does some noise removal stuff that seems really good and really cool. Seems to bring, like, if you're talking on a phone into a podcast and you take that track, you can clean it up a lot, apparently. I didn't realize it was a spoken word editor, though. Oh, yeah, actually I did. Yeah, that makes sense as like a narration. Okay, yeah.
you need to know about compression. One of the most important and often misunderstood
Oh, and as I've been doing for the other 2 videos we watched, and again, they'll be in the YouTube description. This is the video itself. This is the channel. All right.
concepts in mixing, and it doesn't matter which genre of music you produce or which DAW you use, learning how to compress properly is an essential skill. In this video we are going to go into what exactly compression is, which I'm sure already many of you have an idea about, but I'm also going to show you exactly how to do it and when to do it, when to know you're compressing
To be honest, I think even right now I have a good enough idea to where I can talk myself through and talk what I'm doing and make this helpful as it is. But
too much and when to know you're compressing too little, and it's going to help you get the absolute best results from your music. Before we go into what compression is and everything else compressed, so first this is the uncompressed vocal. And now let's listen to the compressed version. You hear the difference? Everything just sounds clearer and smoother and pops through the mix. Which leads me nicely into our first point of today's video, which is what is compression? So compression is simply changing the volume.
Okay, so again, I've all the other videos have covered this, and I even kind of just pointed this out. It is easier to have like, and maybe they'll have one. I mean, this is obviously a bigger image here compared to this, but it's basically taking things, your highest point right here and your lowest point right here, and making them closer together, changing the dynamic range. That is compression. And it makes it so that when you're making a track, you don't have these peaks way up to super loud, but then like trying to make the quieter stuff louder. So it makes quieter stuff louder and the louder stuff so that you can, you know, fit it into the mix easier.
So compression is simply changing the volume of a signal over time to reduce the dynamic range. So firstly, let's go through all of the controls on a compressor.
Okay, I only have the Pro Q Fab Filter plugin, but I honestly think I want to get a couple more, like just spend the money. I love the visuals that they have on this type of stuff. Well, maybe my compressors are fine, but there's some really cool stuff that Fab Filter does.
And I'm going to explain them to you as we go. So I'm using the Fab Filter Pro C2 here, just because it's a really nice compressor that can show you exactly what's going on visually as well. So it's going to help this description, but it has pretty much the same controls as any compressor that you're going to find in your DAW, even if it's just a stock compressor. So let's look at their important parts and I'll explain them all. So you've got the threshold, the ratio, the attack and the release. They are the main controls that you have in any compressor. So let me give you the best analogy I've ever heard to describe these 4 core controls of a compressor. So if you're playing music in your room and you're pumping it up, the threshold is the point at which you make it so loud that your mum shouts up at you from downstairs to turn down your music. So if you turn it up too loud, it gets to a certain point and
reached
she's gonna
mom's
tell you to
threshold.
turn it down, right?
Pretty sure my mom, unrelated, but there's a reason I'm probably going to call this series, I already forgot what it's called, with further ado, because I get fucking stuck. Now I have 2 good names for a podcast as well.
Ratio is how much you turn it down by, when she shouts up at you. The attack is how quickly you respond to
I don't
her
know where to
shouting
go
up at you.
on the
So
screen.
does she sound really angry? If so, you want to turn it down really quick. And then the release is how quickly after she shouted at you that you turn it back up again. So that made me laugh when I first read that analogy on the internet, and I think it's a really easy way to remember all of these controls. So with that in mind, let's just loop a point of this vocal, and we're going to use that analogy to help describe it. So at this point, our threshold by default is set to -18. And that means when our vocal reaches above -18 dB, then the compression is going to start kicking in.
I'll
Now,
find
as we
somewhere
discussed, the
comfortable.
ratio is how much you turn it down by. So this is where people can get really confused, because you've got these ratios here. You know, it starts at 1:1 and it goes all the way up to 100:1, which is basically limiting. It means that anything above that level is just being completely cut off.
And just, I really liked what the other video in the mix said. Like, a limiter is basically a compressor with infinite ratio. Like, if it goes past this threshold, it's infinitely compressed.
And nothing is getting above that. But I'll explain the kind of ratios that we would use with compression usually. So 2:1 means that when you go above the threshold and the compression kicks in, you are basically halving the volume of everything above that threshold. So if your signal was to go above that threshold by 2 dB, the compressor is then going to make it 1 dB. Now, if you turn the threshold to, say, 4:1, for example, that's a stronger compression. You know, it's a harder, more audible way to compress a sound. So if you were to go up, say, 16 decibels above the threshold with your signal, then a 4:1 ratio would compress that 16 decibels down to 4 decibels, because that's dividing it by 4, basically. And that's what the ratio does. And as I said, the higher you go, the harder the compression. And when you get to like 100:1, that's pretty much, you know, like, well, some compressors you can actually have a limiter mode, but it basically is compressing it completely above that point. So where I'm going to start with this vocal is...
And that kind of reminds me, like, I was thinking about having, like, for stream, when Spike was helping me set up my audio equipment, Matt, it was helping me. I was like, should I put, I saw some video, like, should I put a limiter on my mic in my OBS mixer, so if I get too loud or whatever? And he was like, I mean, he's like, you could do that, but, like, and this was even before I understood as much as I currently do about compression. He's like, but that's basically what your compressor is doing. So, like, this is my mic right here. I'm on my compressor. If I go above here, it's reducing the gain by this much. So, where is it? Is this input? I think this is input. But it's also bringing it up to right here. Test, 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 test. So technically, even like, I'm looking at my OBS audio mixer and it doesn't even go past that. But so it is limiting that way. Grass is green. My brain hurts. Mine hurts too. It just always hurts. Thousand Owls. Do you enjoy Ableton's vanilla compressors? I have not used them a whole lot. And that's kind of what this is. I'm doing it live because I feel like I'm getting multiple things done, as in I'm streaming, which I like to do, and that's a fun hobby, but I'm also recording this to throw it up on YouTube. And obviously throwing all the links to the videos I'm watching, making them very pronounced because this is their content and I'm using it. But I need to learn. I need a lot of details. I'm a bottom up kind of guy before I can really understand the full picture. So I need to connect a lot of different things. So I don't know as much about it. However, I'm pretty sure you can take pretty much any of Ableton's stuff and compressors, saturators. Now, I do have Ableton Live 11 Suite, so I don't know what is or isn't included with, say, Lite or anything. And I probably will be using paid plugins. But also for this, I might be trying out both, like doing an on-off of different plugins. I have a lot. So a lot of these plugins I've gone to, I've looked up various lists of, what are some of your favorite plugins. And if you look up favorite mixing, mastering plugins, Reddit, you can find all kinds of different Reddit posts where people are kind of sharing theirs and agreeing or disagreeing so far. So I have, and so if they go on sale or whatever, I grab them. Like this streaming and music and the guitars I have here and stuff, like those are my hobby. So I've got some money to spend on that type of stuff. So I do have a lot, and some of them I'll probably never use. I just kind of grabbed them because they were like, if you use Waves plugins, you often get like free ones if you buy one or buy two, depending on their deal. I mentioned this at the beginning. You should never pay whatever the full price is for the Waves plugins, and their upgraded system is something you'll want to look into before doing that. But can I hear what you've got so far? I am going to be taking what I've got so far and doing that. I just wanted to kind of watch some of these first. So I will be playing it here. And my goal was to make these videos about 2 hours, but we'll see because I get distracted.
It's relatively gentle.
But I will be
compression.
showing you what I've got.
About 3 to 1, 3.5 to 1. And it's worth noting, before I compress a signal, especially if it's a longer signal like a vocal, I will actually go and try and equalize the volume more or less beforehand, just manually. Not too much, but you can see here I've actually split this track into two, this part and this part, and that's because this first part was a bit quieter because she was singing more softly. So I've actually boosted this up by 10 dB, and I've boosted this one up by 6 dB.
Well, you know what? Here, that might be a good idea. I think I have a good enough idea to at least show some stuff. But I'll give this disclaimer damn near every time I play these songs. The song I have open is one I've had for a while. It doesn't even have a bridge necessarily, but I've had the chorus and the verses and the chorus and the lyrics for ages. I'm not very comfortable with my vocals, but I think by doing them more and by just listening to them, I'll be able to get better at this whole thing. So what it is so far, and I've not touched this song for months. Okay, let me think about how long it's been. I bounced this track and I uploaded it to my SoundCloud 4 months ago, and I haven't touched it since. I've shown it and gone through different things, but I haven't done it since. So all I had before. So 4 months ago or so was when I got Ableton. So I just recorded guitar, some Logic lingo. I just hear enough people say it. Yeah, I rendered it. But even this, I can see that a compressor would help me on this stuff. I added a cello. And I might even just not have the harmonies, actually. Actually, where did they go? Because I was just testing out this plugin, the Waves Harmony plugin, and I don't really, it can do some cool stuff, but it's like, yeah, it'll pop up here. And then I just have yeah, it's just got like a 357 thing. So it's automated. I don't quite like it. I was just testing stuff. Yeah, there's like a hauntingness to it that I don't like, but I just have this one like MIDI cello, some violins, that could be layered, they can be beefed up. And that's the gist. Like basically everything's the same there. So things I could do. I was practicing a lot of automation with this project. So for these, just things like bringing this. And it just maybe went on a little too long. I didn't feel like adjusting the MIDI. I don't know why I did that, to be honest. So I don't notice the low attack on the violin and the full mix. Pretty interesting sound. It is, yeah. One thing I've found is, and they mentioned that in one of the earlier videos we did, was at least for compression, which I haven't done on this. And maybe it would be a good idea to do like a humanizer type deal on this MIDI. And I don't know if that's something like down, or if it would be in the clip itself, and I could, randomize velocities a bit more. I've adjusted them a little bit because I kind of started using the velocities as volume, and I don't know if that's a good idea or not. So that's also stuff I'll be learning and figuring out. Or would it be better if I converted this MIDI to audio and then I could do stuff with that? But yeah, or if I just varied and found a way to like humanize. There might even be some MIDI effect I could do. Note length, pitch, random, velocity. Yeah, I could do like some. Oh, there is a compression. MIDI compression. Interesting. Yeah, there's automating the attack for starters. Yeah, that is definitely something too. So there's a lot of ways that aren't wrong to do a lot of this stuff as well. And that's something I'll need to keep in mind, because once I find a way and it works, then sometimes I'll get like the set in my head, like, okay, like this is the right way. But for example, on my guitars, I've got automation on the chorus here. And so when I'm doing the finger picking, you get a lot of that, just that really high pitch sound. So something like this, even if I just solo it right there. And I did a quick example of this earlier, but if I didn't have that if I didn't have that automation there, like that shit just bugs the fuck out of me. Now, compression. Now, I think this is still going to be something important to do in cases like that if I don't just re-record this guitar track in the first place. But compression would also help with stuff like this, because it'll bring some of those peaks and transients down, depending on how I set my settings. Because that's kind of jarring. Maybe not in the mix, which is why it's important to listen in the mix. But Bio says Rocket League. I do play quite a bit of Rocket League. And most of my streams the last few weeks have started with a bit of Rocket League just to wake up. Because most of I work nights, and so I wake up, like even on my nights off, I tend to do my streaming. And yeah, Rocket League, I've got about 2,600 hours in it over the last 6 years. I'm not great, but I really enjoy it. What rank are you? I think 3 is my current rank, which I always solo 3s, and I honestly kind of miss solo standard, which you could only solo queue into. but the population was usually pretty low. I think I'm like C1, C2 in threes, and then in twos, C2, sometimes C3, and then Rumble was my main. Rumble's probably where at least 50% of my hours are. Way as soon as Rumble came out, like that was like my main for literally years. And I'm GC2 or GC3 in that right now, but most people would agree that that doesn't really count. So with this project here, if I go to like, oh, do I not have it? Oh, okay. So this will be another cool thing to do. Wait, maybe I'm on the wrong thing. Okay, I was. So on these, I do have a sidechain compressor, and I compressed it with the vocals to make the guitar a little bit quieter so my vocals would peek through. Now that might not be as necessary if I compress my vocals properly and compress my guitars properly. So I do have because I recorded these kind of separate. As you can see, they're kind of clips here. And maybe combining these things would make editing a bit easier. What did you pan on your master? I don't know if I actually have. I see that as well. I don't think I actually have anything panned on the master. Like it was the. What the fuck is this? Oh, okay, what? That's a good. What the look at that. That almost, what is. Well, that there shouldn't be panning on that. It doesn't, I can't hear a difference, I'll be honest, but oh, I wonder if I accidentally copy and pasted some panning, but even then, like that's like the most panning I practiced was in this like ending part here. Like when I was just trying to have these, and that's what got me into reverse guitars, by the way, but yeah, let me cancel. Let me just, that is so weird. Good pointing that out. Actually, okay. Let me just reload this just in case, because I want to save it with that, but I just want to make sure I haven't adjusted anything else while digging around. I wonder if that is, yeah, good eye on that. I don't even remember putting a glue compressor on there. I think that's a good thing for a master sometimes if you do it right, but I don't even remember doing that. So that's why I'm doing this series. And that's like the nice thing also about being able to do it on stream is people like you or just people who come in and ask those types of questions. Like that stuff helps a lot. Okay, how do I just... I'm hoping that just deleted the panning and not anything else. Gonna play some games. Sounds good. I'll be switching over to Tunic here shortly. Yo, thanks for the follow. $1,000. It's 497 followers. That's kind of crazy to me. That's that. being that close to 500 is pretty crazy. But SoundCloud before I'll follow you there too. I appreciate that. And I'm not a huge like New Year's resolution type person. I'd like to make my resolutions without waiting for a new year when I fuck up on it and just get back at it once I fall. But my resolution is to get tracks mixed, mastered, and put on SoundCloud, put on Spotify. But there's the link right there. It's just got that song and this other song that's very different from those. I don't even know what genre it would be. But I feel like there's a lot I could do. Garbage and zero mastering, still learning too. Exactly. And I figure as long as I put work in progress, indie folk, that is kind of what I assume this song is. Okay, if you got like 2 minutes, this is my other song. Well, I've got another piece. I've got 3 projects, but there's a lot I want to do the drums. This one's quite a bit different. As soon as I learned I could reverse guitars, I went in, I actually did all of this on stream, like just chopping stuff up and reversing stuff. So you can see these arpeggios fading in and then, but there's a lot I could do to make some of these coming up. I can compress those, for example. And I've got a lot of tuning and mixing on the drums to do too, but and the hi-hats and shakers. I don't think I have anything on the drums. Just some automation of the. I've literally just got some automation and maybe some volume automation, panning and volume automation on the hi-hats basically. And some delay that I added and feedback. Drums warm and wide is a fantastic start that comes with Ableton. I'll have to check that out. Because this just started as a project of me. Oh, the wide and warm master? Or drums? I might need to download it. What guitar is playing that lead? That's actually like a $200 Gibson, or not, Epiphone SG. Like my second electric guitar ever. I sent that through a little Ableton, just a very basic signal. Because you might even be able to see here, I have Serum. I was trying out different MIDI things. I really wanted a saxophone to do a lot of this stuff that the guitar is doing, and I just couldn't find a good sax sound without paying hundreds of dollars to like Contact or to East West, which I might still end up getting a good sample library. But anyways, I used that because this was done a long time ago too, before I got might be able to see. Hold on. That's the PRS SE Hollow Body 2 piezo. Got an okay bonus at work and ended up picking that up, and I fucking love it. And then honestly, once I saw like the quality of the SE line of PRS guitars, I had to get. So actually, maybe this would be a bit. Whoops. Like all the switches, yeah, I've got, I mean, if you see my desk, I've got like my mixer and my PC and stuff, and I need to dust a little bit more frequently than I do, but these, a little bit of dust because it's been about a week or so, but I like to keep them clean, and oh my gosh, they sound amazing. I haven't even recorded any. Well, that's not true. I've recorded a little bit, but that was going to be another thing I did on stream eventually, was just practicing guitar, because I lost a lot of it. I started playing like 20 years ago, but there were years at a time where I didn't touch it. Is that a portal key? Oh shit! Good, yeah, good eye. Actually, so Portal 2 is my favorite game, and the Portal series, and now Outer Wilds as well. But my girlfriend at the time actually had made this for me, like all entirely by hand. A Portal companion cube plush. It's literally the best gift I've ever received. And then that was for my birthday, I think, and then for Christmas, she stitched this and some other stuff too. Yeah, I know she put a fuck ton of time into that. So but like that by itself makes it like a gift that I love. But it just looks really. It's so cool. Yeah, a lot of my. If you like Portal, you might enjoy my tattoos, but actually, I can probably just really quick. Yeah, oh shit, rolling over cables. If you're familiar with the co-op characters, and then I do have the companion cube on my chest, because I wanted to. It would be cool over like my actual heart on my left side, but I already have like this arm right here is a lot of biology stuff, serotonin, dopamine, norepinephrine, and then I've got oxytocin on this over my heart, and then the Portal cube there. But yes, those are a drug dealer or a doctor. I do have my psych degree, and I worked in behavioral psychology for 5 years. Burnt out. And maybe that. So this is all going on the YouTube video, by the way, and maybe that is a good thing to add. And another kind of, it works into the reasons I'm doing this. I got heavily burned out on that job. It was super rewarding in so many ways. But I got absolutely burnt out, and I didn't realize until I'm 32 now, and I didn't realize until I was 32 years old that I have ADHD and autism. And so I also worked heavily with the autistic community, and I don't know, there's a whole lot that goes into that, and I'm very open about that type of stuff, but they're very important to me, I guess. And so that's why they're kind of, I've got tattoos of them. Now I have, as a neuro spicy person, used a lot of substances in the past, but yeah, here's what I got so far. And right there, I haven't done a whole lot of editing. You can see all the playlists of all the games, and I'll have a different playlist for these. So here's all the categories so far I've got for this music series. Gain staging, EQ, reverb delay, compression, sidechaining, all of those. There's going to be some overlap. Distortion, saturation, limiting and clipping. Might even work good with compression. Talked a bit about those already. Synthesizers, different controls on those. LFOs, shaper box. Things like vocals, bass and sub bass. These are all things I want to kind of do, like watch and learn live. With live feedback if people are in chat and stuff like that. So, but yeah, you can kind of see a lot of the games I like to play and have played. But yeah, so like being autistic, I've learned that like very recently and gotten the words for it that I need a lot of details, and I'll ask a lot of questions that seem kind of basic, but it's just me verifying something so I can connect it to something I already know to build out the broader understanding and then applying it to my own music.
So this one's basically 4 dB louder than the second one just because she's singing more softly. Now with vocals, you could actually go in and, you know, tweak separate syllables as well, but that's beyond the scope
I'd be happy
of this
to have
video.
you.
But I just wanted to throw that in before we started because I am actually working with a vocal today. So let's just loop this first part first and work here.
Wild electric running through my mind.
So you can see at the moment we're getting about 12 decibels of gain.
Okay, so I'll be honest, for this, and maybe I'll do like a compression part 2 as well, because I want to take the last little bit here before I switch over to playing Tunic and continuing Tunic. Let me see if there's anything that would help a lot here. Attack, makeup gain. We know that makeup gain is, since you're quieting down the loud parts of a track, maybe if I use a visual. Since you would be quieting down the loud part of a track. Now, I know that the stuff I used for this guitar compressor, it had a compressor built in. So that's why you'll see a pretty fat signal on the guitar itself, I suppose. So for the vocals, which I don't have on this song, I'm on the wrong song. Whoops. But there's still stuff I could actually like just throw a compressor on the drums as well. Let me do that now. And I'll remember your comment about the warm and wide and see if I can find a better one. A specific de-esser, I don't actually know a specific one because my mic has it built in through my mixer. My mixer has it built in, I should say. So I just have it inserted into channel 15 already.
So lately, you've been watching. Thank you so much for the follow.
I don't know why it's not letting me pause. That was weird. I hope I'm saying your name acute or acute. You can feel free to correct me if you have some phonetics for me, but hello and thank you for the follow. Welcome. Must be nice. It is, yeah. It took, man, I got this mixer when it was real, like just electronic stuff was really tough to get. So having that stuff kind of built in, the de-esser, the EQ, the gate, that makes at least some of this a lot easier. For vocals at least. Acute. Okay. Oh, asked for it when I got liberal with the spelling. That's fair. I did like I could see it going in different ways. Like I you know, I can see it going different ways. Keep your tab up. Yo, I appreciate the lurk, Owls. Appreciate you dropping in, following earlier. And I appreciate the enthusiasm and stuff. That makes me more excited. Like, maybe these videos will go on a little bit longer than I want, but I love this. I love the interaction. I love the suggestions or questions because they make me, they give me a chance to explain something, and that can help me understand it better. But I was looking for a compressor on the drums because these hi-hats, the volumes still aren't fantastic. Oh, drums. Okay, there it is. Maybe if I put that in orange and name that percussion or something. Okay, so I get a compressor. I could use Ozone 10, Neutron 4, or I've got a multi-band compressor as well. Curious what this Ozone 10 compressor does. Are you new to production, or are you brushing up on the fundamentals a bit? Very new to production. Very new. Like this, I did these and I was just testing out, you know, using this mixer to record guitar, to record vocals, and getting them into Ableton. And then, I learned what automation is, and I can take the little dink out of my acoustic guitars and stuff like that. But I realized that it's going to be hard for me to move forward with something if I don't feel like I know what I'm doing. So I'm working on knowing what I'm doing. And I figure, and also, so I also struggle a lot of times with my free time, in that it's I have pretty severe ADHD. So if I'm not streaming, but I want to, because I love this type of interaction and stuff. I love sharing what I'm playing and sharing moments with people. But if I'm not doing that and I'm doing something else, sometimes it feels like I'm missing out. So there's like that FOMO. So if I can get as many things as possible, streaming and learning and practicing this stuff, it's a way for me to just actually do the things that I need to do to get better. Warm welcome to the music world. Happy to have you with this. I appreciate that. I appreciate that a lot. I don't always know what I'm doing. Compression is one, I think maybe is one that I have a pretty good visual understanding with the dynamic range, and stuff, but I haven't really applied it to a lot, except in, did I not open the other song? Never mind. I'm going back and forth because I do have that song with vocals that's very different from this. Okay, so what if I compress it before the reverb? That makes sense. I have to put it after the instruments. Okay. So I see it working. Let me start at the beginning. But I also think I want it to... Okay. Now, I don't know exactly. Maybe I need to learn. Maybe I should specify or look up specifically and like either do a different video on multiband compressing, because I don't exactly know if I don't know what I'm doing. But I know there are some good videos even by the people that I've included in on this. So while I like the visuals of this, I might try... For now, I'm going to maybe just stick a different one. What is this project for? Any specific events or emotions that it's tied to? Yeah, so most of these projects, the projects I've, kind of these 3 main projects I'm working on are literally just me. Oh, I got this new guitar. I'm going to try and record something. And ever since I reversed a guitar on a previous song, I've just been obsessed with that. So I'll start with an arpeggio on guitar or whatever, and then try and chop it up, reverse it, and then I just usually end up building around that. So this project has little things. Let me try and be concise. This project is not for anything necessarily, and even the title here is just reverse guitar in F with hi-hat panning, because I split it when I decided to do some randomization of the hi-hats and the shakers, and because this drum rack has 4 of them. Yep. Which is going to be tough to manage. So yeah, it's an F. So then I don't really know a whole lot. So I just played around an F pentatonic scale when I was recording all the different stuff with the guitar. I don't know if I still have... Oh wait, it would be here. Yeah, so I just comped a bunch of different guitar parts and chopped them up. Like most of that sounds like absolute shit, which is why I want to practice guitar more. But I made it to something. I was just testing things like panning and chopping, and so a lot of it is like a test, just learning Ableton, which makes it good to kind of take what I'm learning from the videos I'm watching and put into practice. But I feel like I'm going to need to go into these drums, because even this, you can kind of see I have very, there's almost like a visual to the pattern. So I was just testing stuff out that way, having multiple things there. And then I added the panning automation, the randomization. Where is it? Yeah, to like 66% or whatever. Interesting choice. So here's the thing. I only know the gist of pentatonic, and I basically only know the first 2 positions of it. I think there's some videos out there that could help me a bit. But in general, as long as I've been learning guitar, and I see people, like for example, I was watching a video of, oh my gosh, famous like math rocky, kind of like the most popular math rock band right now. I'm trying to, very technical players, great production. They almost play like pop chords, but like just very fancy about it. Anyways, they had a video where they're like roasting their fans. Maybe it's probably in my history here. Polyphia. Yeah, Polyphia roast fan. Alrighty. And so I would see people doing things on like so many different instruments or whatever. I'm like, how do you... I don't understand things. I don't understand the relationship. I don't know what note I'm looking for next. So if I'm like, so far when I've recorded stuff, a lot of it's kind of playing around and then chopping out the stuff that doesn't sound good, which doesn't work for live, obviously. And, but it's largely just a practice thing. And it's tough to do that with ADHD sometimes. So, but in the last month or two, that's been starting to be managed. So heading back into it. Well, so pentatonic is just one of those that's just like it works with a lot of pop music, which is what I listen to a lot of, for example. It fits in with a lot. And then like if I'm doing enough, if I'm comping enough, I can be like, okay, well, this part of the scale isn't quite working. Okay, what notes are these? Okay, well, what if I try it up here, at least for some pitch dynamics or whatever. But I want to understand theory. I don't know. That's a tough question to ask me because I want to understand it. I want to learn everything, literally everything. If I could know everything, I would. So, but yeah, and I just wanted something that I could, because otherwise what I would have done is I probably would have grabbed some MIDI. I initially tried to grab like a MIDI saxophone and I would have just, hopped in the scale and done that. And come up with something like, because sometimes I can hear what I want. Like I can do mouth solos for stuff almost like, but I don't know how to convert it into what my hands are doing with my guitar at the moment. And I don't know. And I think theory is extremely important. I think it would help. And there are things I've recently done that have helped a lot. So practicing a little bit. Where is it? There's a certain plugin called Scalar that has helped me a lot so far, but I don't have it like down. But it's helped me look at things within scales and different voicings of things and what that would look like and what that could sound like and being able to switch between, okay, you've got this chord. If you're looking for this type of feel, this chord would be good. Or if you're looking for this type of feel, this chord would be good. And it suggests those and it plays them and it can convert them to MIDI and stuff like that. And then I use that further to try and help me understand, to just build it into my understanding of it. So I would love to know theory to refer to, but I also don't want to just get stuck in, I have to do circle of fifths, or this shouldn't sound good, or yeah, I don't know. And maybe that's what you're saying in this. Can't just the plus side to learning the sooner or faster compositional skill is more intentional writing. No matter what you choose, you'll still be developing and honing your ear. That makes total sense, yeah. And I could go into a lot of, like, I'm a 32-year-old who's finally trying to really learn this stuff. And I have been, I don't know exactly how to put it. Like, for a very long time, I was like this is going to get, I was a hyper religious person. And I would hear parents and teachers and adults saying that practice is this, practice is that. And I didn't have enough of the why to believe it, I guess, maybe. And I was just very like, if my dad said this, if my mom said this, if my priest said this, like, they're authorities, they're right. They know these things. And but also, was very just assumed that people who were good at things had were like 90 to 100% just naturally good at it, like naturally talented. And so if I wasn't good at it, I kind of just felt for a long time that I wasn't meant to be, and I didn't do anything about it. I didn't understand how practice worked. And eventually, I went to, I went into college and learned. I have like a psych degree, and I learned about learning and how the brain does that. But I'm still unlearning a lot of stuff. I don't know if that makes any sense. Whoops. But yeah, because I wish I would have started a lot earlier. But right now I'm just trying, like, because like even this, like as this is, like I think having bounced this and like, do I still have it up? I don't think I do. Like, and I just did this for easier access for myself. So I would like ride around, and my buddy would pull up my SoundCloud, pull this song up, and we'd blast this song. And it's even as it is, like you can see the waveform isn't very compressed and stuff, but it still felt it was still fun to listen to. Partly because I made it like, hey, I did this, but also I don't know, there's a lot of reasoning behind it, but I could totally see and I wonder if I just put even a glue compressor on the master. But let me, okay, this is the Ozone 10 compressor. I think I just want to stick. I'm curious what this does now. Drums warm and wide. Okay, yeah. This is what 1000 L's said they really enjoy about for their drums and stuff. So I'll have to keep an eye on that and try that stuff out. Sorry, I'm at a weird point here where my plan was to do about 2 hours of this, teaching myself, maybe trying to apply it to one of these 3 kind of main projects I have, and then I was going to head into some video games. I wanted to continue Tunic tonight. So to get something done, I'm going to remove this for now, but I've got it saved. Actually, let me delete that too and find a different compressor. And I just want to see if it feels any different. Actually, let me throw a glue compressor on the master as well, just to see overall. Because it is peaking in the beginning. So, that's another thing I'll be working on is gain staging. So I guess I shouldn't worry too much about like getting it sounded perfect just from compression, because I need to learn more about gain staging as well. But if I throw a compressor on here. Just an Ableton one before the reverb and delay. You should use that SoundCloud page as an Audible journal. I think it will be really helpful to have milestones you can revisit in the future, like progress markers. I like that idea a lot. and that's one of the other things I'm trying to unlearn is, growing up kind of a talented and gifted kid, in grade school and even into like high school, and not really struggling, but also putting absolutely no effort into doing well in those schools, and then getting my ass kicked once I went to college. From that often comes, and for me it has come, like there's like a perfectionist. Like I don't want to, like I'm scared to attempt it if I don't know how I can make it as close to perfect as possible. So taking kind of that and knowing that I can do that by practicing and by just sitting down and doing it, but also realizing that that perfectionist mindset is just gonna stop anything good from ever happening. This project is working through that as well, I suppose. Dropped it a follow in case you decide to upload soon. I appreciate it. I usually stream pretty long when I stream. Like this is like my hobby. I don't do a whole lot else off of work. Cook some things here and there, do a little exercise here and there sometimes, but a lot of it's at the computer. Yeah. Thanks for the bit. I appreciate it. How you doing? But thank you for the follow on that. And I really appreciate the insight of someone who's been doing this stuff. And I hope sometimes I've gotten a lot better. I have a tendency to kind of fight back. Like but I want to listen to people who, and at least try things out. Even if I don't like it, at least I know that there's a different way to do it that might work for another project or something like that. So, if I push back, and sometimes also I just have a lot of questions just to clarify things. And it can seem like I'm arguing, and I'm not, but well, I will probably take you up on that acute at some point. Oh, so that's where I was going with this. I love video games a lot as well, and I still kind of put those on YouTube currently when I do campaign and single player playthroughs. But I think as frequently as I stream, if I take the first hour or two and learn a specific thing, these are what I have so far. If you have any other ideas for categories as well. But if I do that, I think I have a really good start to just improve a lot over the next few years. But yeah, I've got gain staging, EQ, reverb, delay, side chaining, compression, distortion, saturation, limiting, clipping. And again, there's going to be some crossover, especially with side chaining. I learned today that compression and limiting are very similar, but clipping might be different. So how different synthesizers work. I tend to use Serum, but I think I got a couple others in some deep VST sales over the holidays. That would be fun to just learn those too, or things about them and what they do. Reference tracks, so more mastering type stuff, reference tracking. And then I also want to dive into specific vocal things, bass and sub bass, percussion, snare clap. I don't know if those would be part of the same thing. They seem to be percussion. I kind of consider to be the things that aren't like, well, maybe kick, but like not the snare and clap or the hi-hat. I don't know. I'm just trying to learn all that shit. But frequency. Yep. So I was I know you weren't here, but I was even talking about some of that. Like I have the Audio-Technica M50Hs or M50Xs, and they're kind of, at least review wise, considered to be good entry level monitors. But that's about it. And the higher range is stuff to focus on. And I do try and listen on other speakers, even on these tracks that I've rendered or bounced or whatever. But I have been looking into some maybe biodynamics or something to help. But I want to do what I can with these headphones and then maybe take it further once I'm further along, because I do have kind of a habit of just buying gear for that and then not doing it, not always using it or doing what I should with it. I wonder, because like even here, I had 2 other videos. So far I've liked Seed to Stages content. And I don't know much about her, but I think her video was one I just pulled up right before I started stream. You got a leg up on a lot of people who pick this up. If you stay consistent and continue to delve in these topics, you're going to improve very quickly. I hope so. And I appreciate you saying that. And I think you have enough experience on that to be able to speak on that. I tend to self-doubt on that type of stuff, but I'm going for it. Like even today, I just wanted to I woke up kind of tired and I just wanted to hop on and play more Tunic. But I'm like, if I don't do this tonight, I'll make that same excuse every night. So I'm glad I got this one in. I'm going to maybe take the next few minutes, just explore the compressor on this drum track and maybe on the master, the glue compressor on the master. And then I'll probably switch over to continuing the Tunic playthrough for a few hours. And if I know, those types of things can often bring different viewers and people who don't want to hear me playing the same thing over and over. Like when I'm actually like mixing stuff or recording stuff, or people who don't want to see someone play games. Like I get that, but I guess that's the nice thing about being a variety channel, huh? Yeah, I feel like, okay. And I've even got the master down to 5.7 and it's still, well, actually it's not peaking. The drums themselves are. So I could just turn, wait a second. What DAW do you use, Acute? Oh my god. Oh shit. Okay, hold on. I just realized what I'm doing. So this is another thing that I want to work on, is that having this drum rack, at least I don't know the best ways to like I just realized I'm doing this utility to bring the gain down, but it's only affecting this hi-hat that I have here. Use constant power fader for loops. So I'm going to put the utility here and maybe it won't matter. So anything coming from the drum rack should work then. Okay, that did work. Okay, nice. Okay. Pro Tools works better when I'm tracking recording for a new project, but my post-processing workflow is much more streamlined in Ableton. That kind of makes sense. I think Pro Tools has, like, you can use Pro Tools 6 as a VST. I think it's like $400. I was looking into it. Like, you can use like the entire VST in Ableton, or you can use the entire Pro Tools in Ableton if you want. So it would, I don't know. I thought about doing that because they had something that looked interesting, and I had some cash, and I thought about doing it, but that makes sense. Because, and I think another video is going to be just very basic Ableton things, because I really don't entirely understand this view. I know now if any YouTubers or videos I've watched that use this tend to be live performers. Not all of them, and some of them use these meters I've seen for different things. And they'll use it to keep at because I know that I want headroom to master the mix louder, but I also, yeah, that's stuff I'll have to get a better visual of. And I think, and that's the tough part, is I think for people like these creators that I'm watching, it's hard for them to go like super deep into the things that would help me, like very specific questions. Some that aren't even necessarily pertinent to what I'm doing, but I know I might need it later, and I'm trying to get the concept in my head. It just takes a lot of what feel like, even just to me, like stupid questions. And I don't know, maybe this type of video will help other people eventually. Dawception, not again DiCaprio. Yes, Dawception. I'm pretty sure it was Pro Tools. I'm curious now. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was a different one. Either way. The terminology is asinine. It definitely feels like that. It definitely feels like that. And then I have other questions because, like, my buddy, he is an audio engineer, and he would help me with this stuff probably at some point to a degree if I asked. But he like helped me set up a lot of this. I have an XR18, and I don't know if this more, like when he was helping me set up some stuff, it was more for the stream and not necessarily for like doing vocals. So I don't know if I should have a different mic preset of compression and EQ and gates for recording vocals or not. Things like that, I just don't entirely know, because I imagine it would make sense to me if these settings varied a bit between like a speaking podcast voice and then for musical vocals. But I have like 10-foot ceilings and stuff, so it's not ideal for recording either. Okay, I don't like this entirely. I want the kick to be more pronounced, but I kind of like how some of this stuff has risen a bit. So that'll be more stuff to sort out. And maybe I can just change the volume of the kicks I have as well to, I don't know, or maybe freeze them or convert them to audio or resample them, and then I don't know. Careful with the reverb patch pre-delay if reverb is robbing the vocal of impact. And typically you would apply a compression EQ as inserts on the channel and reverb delay on an aux send. So yep, that's another reason. And I've heard that I've heard them talk about track delay versus sending it. Which on this one I haven't. Yeah, I don't think I have anything going to the reverb or delay. But I literally just like last week learned that I could insert a return track or just go to this reverb and change the reverb on it, or go to the delay and change which delay plugin I'm using. It's very early with my understanding of that, and I was just trying to get certain sounds, but that doesn't always translate well. And so, yeah, and that's why sidechaining is going to have compression and delay and reverb and other things that can be sidechained. Like I do have this other kind of acoustic indie-ish song that has the acoustic guitars sidechained with the vocals, so that when the vocals are there, that it lowers in volume a little bit. But even then, like I don't have the vocals themselves compressed, and I've also got I've got 3 tracks just slightly offset by 20 to 30 milliseconds, like duplicated and then offset left, right, and center. So I don't want all the way left and right on the vocals for it. But I also think there's some stuff I can compress on the guitars in that. So you know what? I think I will probably do a compression part 2 and figure out a way. And so for what it's worth, let me reread your thing. Careful with reverb patch pre-delay. If the reverb is robbing the vocal of impact until 30 to 50 milliseconds. Okay, I don't think I have any on, like this is on the drums. I don't have any vocals here. Or you're just saying in general? Because the reverb and delay that I have is literally just turning it on. And I was experimenting on having it on for this kick that I just kind of wanted to sound a little bit like, I just wanted to, and that's not even quite how I want it, but I just turned it on, and I wanted those to not sound, I just wanted some space in those, but so that's the only thing on the track that the reverb and delay are doing. But there's still things I could do different. Like I could still send those and it would mix better, I think, like you were saying. An EQ preset tailored to your voice. That way you aren't fiddling the same thing across 50 different projects. That makes sense. I mean, my EQ is kind of set in the mixer itself that I use. Oh, this is pretty generic, I think. So I could experiment a bit more with that. But maybe I mean, there's still more EQ I could do in the tracks as well. And I really just kind of learned different things about EQ, and that's like watching people split their bass and sub bass, for example, and just on their bass, like killing, like doing a cutoff at like 100 hertz and then doing a cutoff above 100 hertz or whatever for their sub bass, and having them different and having delay apply to them differently and stuff like that, and seeing the differences and the clarity that can come from that is super cool and stuff I want to experiment with. The pretty layers of the birthday cake. Exactly. So, I'm tempted not to save this just because I feel like I know things that I can change once I know more. And I want to apply a compressor to this, but I want to keep this video right about, well, it's at 2.5 hours right now. And I don't have time to edit that and stuff, save everything. Should I save it as a different project though? Because what if I want to go back to what I had? You know, it's that FOMO. or I just listen to it again, know what I want to do. Because I'm hesitant to save it, knowing there's something in here that is a little bit worse. Worse, as in the kick is not as punchy as it was before I threw on the utility, as the default project. I do tend to do that usually. Like, I don't know how well you can see that. There's a few of them, just test projects, normalized versus, I was trying out different things with normalized and non-normalized and Ableton settings, different like subscriber notifications. And I did get the East West Choirs plugin was on sale at one point, and I made a little beat, and I kind of made it into like a whole little thing. It sounds like shit, but it cracks me up. So I made that just a little fun thing that I can either have trigger with a raid, or right now I just have a button that it triggers that when I type that into chat. But I do a wave and an MP3, and I test it out in different ways. Disorienting would be I could maybe turn the move down a little bit so it's not like so much, but it just cracks. It's stupid shit like that cracks me up sometimes. It's fun. And I think I do have another folder with a few more. So yeah, okay. Does saving a project like this, does it take up a lot of space? You know what, let me save with hi-hat panning, because I did technically split it when I added the hi-hat panning. Compression, whatever. We'll save it. We got a new one saved. Well, so that was like, I threw that together. Like, I just took the audio over there, and I have my cam react to that. It's the same thing as like when people redeem. Here, I'll redeem it really quick. It's not my song, obviously, but well, actually, I'll show you here. Let me close this YouTube video, and then I'll be streaming still. If you're watching on YouTube, I appreciate it. And again, like I said in the beginning, if you have anything, I don't have a whole lot of time to edit, do jump cuts and stuff like that. That would probably be better use of your time in my, to watch stuff like this. But if there's anything that helped, anything that you would like to see different, you can either come to stream at twitch.tv/lawmighty. Like, we have had a couple people here, and point that stuff out, leave it in the comments, stuff like that. I'll be improving my music and improving these videos as much as possible over time. And I believe I will do a part 2 on compression. So thanks for watching.